So the very first thing that I think we should take a look at when we are working with TypeScript is the first difference from JavaScript is the ability to set up data types. So if I have a variable like this, let x equal to 0, and then I write or let's say 1, and then I write x equal to some string. This, if I was using JavaScript as a language, I would not actually have any errors here. Okay, but the moment I use TypeScript as a language, in that case, if I write let x equal to 1 and x equal to ASD, this is something that does work in your generally inside your browser. You can write something like this, and there is no issues with that. Let me, for example, open a console here. Right. So if I write let x equal to 1, and if I change the value of x to a string, that is something that works in JavaScript, because the variables don't really have a data type. The value of the variable has a data type. The variable can contain any kind of value. Now TypeScript, the very first thing that TypeScript does is prevents that at the compilation stage. So if you have written let x equal to 1 and then you try to change this, you get an error which says that type ASD is not assignable to the type number. So that's something that you're not supposed to do. But if you try to set it to some other number, that's perfectly fine. You don't get any errors out of that. Okay. So that's the first thing, that whenever you set a variable to a particular data type, you can only in future change it to values of that same data type. So variables automatically get assigned a data type. And sometimes what happens is that we write our code like this. We write let x, and then later on we write a value of x is equal to 1 or something like that. Okay. We define a variable as undefined or null in the beginning, and then we define some value to it later on. When we're defining it like this, if you want to make sure that allow setting only say string to x, if I want to do this thing, so what I can do is I can set up data types like this. I can write colon, and then I can write string like this. Okay, and in that case, it will say that the type 1 is not assignable to type string, in which case I will have to pass only strings inside it, and which will work. And I can actually change to another string also, which will also work. So this kind of notation, as you can see now at this point, if I take this piece of code and try to run it in a JavaScript interpreter directly, you'll see that you get an uncaught syntax error, unexpected token. So this is the part of the syntax that is not actually valid JavaScript anymore. So this is the TypeScript notation for defining the data type of a variable. So we and this kind of notation is called Pascal notation. So the Pascal notation is where you define the data type after the variable, which is a little converse to the way, for example, you do it in Java, where you write string x equal to something, you write in Java like this, or in say C++, or in Java. That's the notation that you use, where you put the data type before the variable name. Now here what happens is that you put the data type after the variable name, and using this colon operator. So it's called the Pascal syntax, and it's a common syntax that you would see in a lot of modern programming languages like Kotlin, Swift, and I think Dart as well. So these are languages where you can actually where the syntax is like you set the data type after, and it's just a matter of the syntax, and there's really no difference. But some people just feel the syntax better. The people who designed the TypeScript language, they felt this syntax to be better, so they went with the syntax where we still use the let and the const keywords from JavaScript to create the variable, but then we also set the data type afterwards, like this, let x string like this. Okay. Thing is that we could also have say, for example, a class. So what all data types that we can have is, we can of course create like let boo of boolean data type, and we can create a string of string data type, and number data type. So these are the three generally primitive data types that we have, and we can set the value of bool to true or to false. But if you set the value of bool to 1 or something like that, then you will get an error because number 1 is not assignable to type boolean again. Okay, you can set any kind of string here, str equal to, you can set some strings here, and if you have a number, then you can set the value to a non-normal number. You can set it to a float value. You can set it to hex values as well. Okay, so that's like the boolean, string, and the number data types that we have here. So that's the basic data types, how we said there. There's a lot more to be understood about data types. As we cover more sections in this series, we will be covering them one by one. Okay,